Alrighty. Am I in? Are we here? Are we live? Testing, testing. Is this mic working? Good morning, good morning, good morning. I love giving myself a drum roll. Alrighty. We're waiting for Danielle. Why does it say DJ Ant is live? Are you on? You can't possibly be on. What did I do? I don't know. All right. Good morning. I am waiting for Danielle to jump on here. This is our first show, and she may or may not be able to figure this out. And it's been a minute for me, so I may or may not be able to figure this out. But let's see. All right, we are live. Thank you for bearing with me. I am not sure what's going on here. Where is my Danielle so we can start this? See, the name of the show is WTF. Let's talk. And what the is going on here? Come on, Danielle. Where are you? All right, let's see. I have no idea. If I start pressing things, I disconnect us. We're in bad shape. So Danielle, where are you? Testing, testing. Is this mic working? Oh, there she is. Danielle, are you
I
here?
am.
See that? We did it. All righty. I don't know why, for some reason, I have somebody else on here that was not a caller. So it's kind of strange, but that's okay. Good morning. How are you, Danielle?
Me, I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, you sound great.
Yeah. I woke up with this raging headache this morning, but I'm better, thank God.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. For anybody that's listening out there, can you hear us okay? Can you hear me okay? Can you hear Danielle okay? Give me some feedback. I see some of you guys are in the room with us here. Greetings, good morning. Thank you for joining us for our very first WTF Let's Talk show. Okay, yes, we got feedback. All right, awesome. All right, so Danielle, since this is your first time with us, why don't you like say hi to everybody?
Hi, everybody. Um, okay, so my nerves are like all over the place today since this is the first time I'm doing this with Karen. And, most people know me. I'm very social, but I'm very private. So I'm the social, antisocial person. And Karen says I like to come out, I like to show myself, and then I withdraw for months at a time. So I'm, trying to feel how things go and, obviously provide feedback and work with Karen. Me and Karen have such a great rapport. We always talk, we could be on the phone for hours, talk about everything and nothing. So we're hoping that this will be great and successful and we can help everybody, like, either answer some questions, give you a place to like vent and just, all about have a good time, once a week. As we talk.
Navigating navigating the WTF
TF,
of life.
yes, correct, correct.
And I
Because
feel
I must
I
say that at least 5 times a day.
exactly. Except I don't say WTF because
Yeah,
I'm
I say.
not like a teenager. So I'm always like, what the and so I don't every time I say WTF, I know it's like politically correct now because you're not supposed to curse and all of that.
Well, I don't
But
think teenagers say WTF anymore either, but that's besides the point.
yeah, I guess so. I don't know who the hell says it, but I know that people, do say that. So yeah, so I am glad. I mean, Danielle, we have been talking about this for, I don't know, a year, maybe longer. And for, just to let everybody know, Danielle has like a posse of her own. She has actually four children,
Mhm.
and a husband and
So
20
that makes five.
sisters and
That makes five children.
oh boy, WTF. And so it's been difficult to she's running constantly. So trying to get her to, like, commit to an hour of her time has been challenging, but nonetheless, I am very convincing and I don't give up. So here we are. And so do me a favor, you guys. Anybody that's here in the room, just check in, say hello. Let us know that you're with us. And I always like the feedback from everybody. Again, you are listening to the very first show of WTF. Let's talk with Karen and Danielle. And so what I wanted, and before I forget, hit that follow button if you guys are on here, because if you hit the follow button when we go live, you will be you'll get an email and it'll say, or I don't know, if you have your notifications on, it'll come up and say, that we're live, so this way you can join us. And if you're catching this on the replay, then you can listen to this on any of your favorite podcasts. You obviously just can't listen to it live if you don't download the Podbean app. So I know everybody is so, like, creature of habit and they don't want to download anything. They don't know, blah, blah, blah. It's really not that bad. And you can listen to it. You could put your earbud in and you could do it at work and no one would even know. Just wear a hat or something. So a woman cover your ear with your hair so they don't know. Although our voices do travel. So they may or may not hear us coming out of there, but it's all good. But it's also a fun thing to listen to on the ride home from work or wherever running your errands, because we all know how much fun life can be. So at least a little, I don't know, a little, like, pause for pleasure might be able to help. But yeah, hit those like buttons. See, there you go, Danielle, you hit it.
See? I'm
Um,
telling you, I'm learning.
yeah, no, listen, I'm still learning and I screw, I'm not the most tech savvy person in the world. You're certainly much more capable than I. So it's kind of funny that I'm at the realm here because I'm like, oh, did I press that button? Oops. We're live. Oops.
Yeah, perfect.
But all right, so listen, so I had I mean, we could talk about 100 things, but a topic was brought up to me, well, not a topic, but something was said to me, and it's been said to me, once or twice. And it's something I'm trying to navigate, and trying to figure out how I feel about it and whether or not I agree or don't agree. So, my question of the day, our topic would be, are you rude? Um, have you been told that you're rude, or do you think you're rude? And what does that actually mean? What does that mean? You're rude. Like, if somebody says to you, "You're rude," Danielle, what is your makeup of you're rude?
Well, I would sit back and think that they didn't even like my tone, my response. They thought I was arrogant in some way in my responses to them, So, but everybody's so soft nowadays. People just expect everybody to coddle them and they want all these like rose colored, like fluffy responses so it's funny because I just had this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday that was told he was arrogant. And he's like, Danielle, am I arrogant? I'm like, oh, a little bit. But I really think that a lot of it is in our delivery. We grew up in a time in life where, our parents would tell us, get to the point, don't pussyfoot around it. Let's go, say what you mean what you say. Let's go. So we learn to be so direct in our responses that nowadays, when everything has to be so politically correct, when we automatically react with our like knee jerk response, people look at us and go, oh, she's so
Mm,
nasty. you know?
Yeah, or you know what I find,
Condescending.
they feel it's condescending. Yeah, and it is. And like, okay, so we both come from the same neighborhood in the Bronx, right? And you remember that expression, take it from where it comes from.
Hmm.
And so it's hard for me, because actually someone that I respect and love and knows me so well, recently said this to me. And and again, I think that we always need to take pause, right? Because you know some of us, if you know the person, right, you take it from where it comes from, right?
Of
So
course.
it's like,
But but not always. But not always, because I have known people for years and then they'll turn around and say, Danielle's such a bitch. And I'm like, but I'm not a bitch. I'm actually a very loving person. I just am very straightforward with my responses and my thoughts. And sometimes that doesn't people just don't take it that way.
right,
Karen, I love you, but people have come to me and be like, "Oh my God, Danielle, she's so nasty." I have
right.
a sister who people say the same thing. She's so nasty, but I know your soul. Like, I know who you are as a person. So I just say, but you have also had so many things happen to you, tragedies and things like that, that it has kind of hardened you to a lot of stuff. So, you have a very protective shell over you, is what I want to say. But if
Well, and
people
I
took,
appreciate that, but I think I've always, I appreciate you giving me the benefit of the doubt on that one. But I've always been this way.
no, I
I've always
understand that,
had a
but
hard
people,
shell.
but people sometimes don't take the moment to get to know you to realize that underneath all
Gotcha.
that, like that barbed wire, fucking Karen, I don't care. that
Don't hold back the way you really feel, Danielle, please.
you're a wonderful person. So and I laugh and I go, you have to get past it. But some people don't even want to put in the effort. So you say, okay, goodbye, and you keep it moving.
Yeah. So, okay. So we have a comment here. Yeah. It depends on what you think of the person you're talking to. So, you know what? And I just had this conversation with my son, and I was raised in a very like open. My parents were hippies. They were very open, and my opinion always mattered. Like, I wasn't raised like children should be seen and not heard. I was raised like the children should be heard and seen. And
No,
so
I wasn't.
that is, I understand. That's what I'm saying. We had a very different, we had a different upbringing in that respect, for sure, well, in many respects. And so I was always just very opinionated, and still am. And I was told to verbalize my opinions, and they mattered. And that was like probably a huge, I don't want to say curse, but like that's been a cross that I've had to bear, because not everybody wants your opinion.
No.
And so you have to actually, like, I find myself having to hold my breath, because like when somebody says something, since I am so strongly opinionated, I want to give
No.
them my opinion. But like, no one asked you. So shut your mouth and listen. And so it became different for me in the sense that but what I did learn, and what I am is, I think that it's when when you're judgmental. And so I'm not a judgmental person, and I think you know this better than most. Like, you could say anything in the world to me, and like, I will say to you, like, Danielle, I don't think this is a great idea, but I'm right here. So like,
But
do what you got to
right.
do. I'm here. I love you. This ain't going to end well, but hey, you never know, right?
But but
And
But sometimes you can respond even with love, and people will say, "Oh my God, she's so judgy." Again, I go back to, I have a friend down here, and our children grew up together, and her daughter
mhm.
is a lot more mature. I keep my children very immature, and people look at me like I'm crazy, but they're 12, and I want them to stay 12. So no, they're not wearing mascara. No, they're not doing this. No, they're not doing that. No, they're not having boyfriends. I was raised, my father was like, don't think about it, don't look at it. You can't even, I couldn't do anything till at least I was 16 years old and then some.
But I don't think
And
that's called wait a minute. I don't want to
no,
interrupt
but
you here, but
of course,
that's not
but
immature.
right,
That's
right.
just being 12.
Well, right, correct.
Okay.
But when I
Okay.
say something to her, like, "What are you doing?" Like, she's walking around
Uh-huh.
looking like she's 17 years old. She got a crop top on. She got
Uh-huh.
makeup on. She's got this. She's got that. You know, Danielle, this
Uh-huh.
is why I don't like talking to you. So judgmental. I'm not
Uh-huh.
judgmental, but you want to know something? There's a fine line, and when those kids cross that line, there's no going back. You know.
100%. 100%.
So,
That's funny. Big Daddy just said 12 is the new 32.
oh my god. So, oh my god. Please,
God help
I'm
us
having
all.
I'm having a heart attack over here. They're like, "Mom," I'm like, "No," and they're like, "Oh my god, you're so boring." Okay, that's fine. I can be boring. I'll go with that. So, but
Yeah.
her daughter is very, developed, and and I sit back and I look and I'm like, so she says, and I have lost friends because of this. Like, she has veered off to other people who have daughters running on a similar path because I don't allow it in my house.
Right, because you're
You
not
know,
aligned.
right? Because we're not aligned. Exactly. So,
Right.
whether you're rude, you're judgmental. Some people, women, we're called bitches instead of rude. Oh, she's such a bitch.
Correct. Mm.
But or she's conceited, or she's this. It
Right.
maybe
She
maybe
thinks who she is.
right, she thinks who she is, and instead of just listen, I was raised a certain way. My beliefs are that, listen, we're running into again. I'm going to change topic for a second. Our world is running on a very precarious course, and you have to keep these kids tight, tight to
Yep.
home, tight to the vest, because it's anything goes out there. I swear to God, going back to the Wild Wild
Yep.
West, everything's crazy.
Yep.
So, you know,
Stop.
but I'm trying to keep a little bit of that old school home feel. We still have dinner together every night. We still do all these things.
Yep.
But people, that's not the way the world is flowing. So people say, oh, she's single minded, she's closed minded, she's this, she's
Mm.
that. There's so many different
Mm.
words for, rude,
Yeah.
that she's, I laugh and I'm like, I'm not any of those things. I'm
Right.
not
And
any of those
so
things.
that's why when people say, so like if a stranger, like what you were saying earlier to me, you were like, well, people don't take the minute, to know to know me per se, okay? But
Hmm.
to me, so okay, so I sit back and I get that, right? But I sit back, and when I have, so again, somebody that cares about me says to me, well, like for instance, like when you have groups of friends, right? So maybe, you're close with a certain person and they have friends as well, and that friend group doesn't want you around because they have whatever issues that they have, and maybe you're, that rude thing. So what I try to do is I try to self reflect and say, well, wait a minute, like what did I, like how am I coming across if that's the case? And like I was saying to you, I had this conversation with my son where I had said to him, he was talking about something in like science class, and he was frustrated because some of the children didn't understand what the lesson was, and the teacher, and they were just asking questions, and the teacher kind of had to like, repeat herself 800 times or whatever. And my son was like, I don't understand it. It's just so easy. Why don't they get it? And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You need to dial it back. That does not come off well. You're coming off like a know it all. I said, you may think that it's easy, that, that this is easy, but the children may not feel that it's easy. So you need to like check yourself and take a step back and watch the way, your whole attitude is not nice, and it's condescending to people. So
Correct.
what's funny is my dad was here yesterday. Now again, my dad raised me, who raised me to be opinionated and, say what I want to say. And my father is, like he didn't tell the story completely to my dad, so my dad didn't quite get the whole, thing. But my father was kind of like, all right, I could see your point. It's frustrating because you're trying, to learn, and this is pulling it back. But he said, but your teacher's job is to teach. So if your teacher explains that, do you think that those children will get it? And he said yes. So she goes, well, that's her job then. Her job is to bring those kids up to where you are. So like the thing is like I think that you always have to remain humble. And again, I guess people don't always get that. And what's funny is people that know me from the show and listen to me will say, I'm so like, why would anybody think that? Like you're so sweet and you're so kind or whatever. But I again, and that's the thing that people say, right? Because and I do this, right? Again, because you're repeating yourself because somebody isn't
You're
getting it
not
the first
listening.
six
You're
fucking
not.
times I said it again. And yes,
But
is that condescending?
I, like,
Absolutely.
it's funny because my kids get upset with me, right? Because I'll say something once, I'll say something twice, but the third time I'm yelling, right? And they're like,
Right.
"Mom," or even with people, like I'm like, "You're not listening. Like, why
Right.
are you not listening?" And then they get
Right.
upset.
Hello.
They're like, "Why are you talking to me that way?"
Right.
They're like, "You're so nasty."
Condescending.
I'm not nasty. But you know, somebody,
I'm annoyed.
right? I'm annoyed. Somebody asked here, so what do you do when friends become jealous or controlling?
Uh
Um,
huh. See
I
ya.
sit back, right? See ya, right? That's really,
See
and I
ya.
hate to say it, I hate to say it that way because I have lost so many friends. I mean, I have had friends since I'm 11. I've had lifelong friends, and
Yep.
Karen knows because she's been there with me, that have
Yep.
all of a sudden turned on me, and I found out that they've never liked me at all.
Well,
You know,
there it is right there. I mean, that's the whole thing. So those aren't lifelong friends, right?
right,
Because
but
you and I
it's
have,
so disheartening, and it does
yep,
such
it hurts.
damage to you
Hurts.
emotionally when
Yeah,
all of
your
a
central
sudden you
nervous
spend
system.
30, 40 years being friends with somebody and you realize that,
They never
yeah,
liked you.
they never liked you, right? They were
Yeah.
friends with you, we were friends with all the same people, you were
Yep.
fun, I was
Yep.
outgoing. Listen, Karen and them will tell you, I come to New York to visit, we're out, we're having ourselves a great time, it's laughter all weekend, you know and I know how to go out and enjoy myself. So sometimes people would jump on the bandwagon because they're like, well, especially if they're introverts, they jump on because they don't know how to, as Karen would say, navigate that aspect of life, going out, introducing themselves, meeting people, whether, so on and so forth. So they use you as a vessel, kind of, they just, they jump on your coattails, so to speak.
Mm.
And
Yeah, which is something that, maybe you do when you're younger. But like, I mean, listen, everybody, especially when you're trying to get out there and meet people, then that makes sense, and yes, people, like when we were kids, right? You have
okay,
the
we got to go back to
people, or
answer this
even now,
question.
you what?
Dancing on the poles. Big Daddy's funny. No, but we have to go back and answer this question. What do you do when friends become jealous or
No,
controlling?
I
We're
know.
veering off. We're going to go
I
back. Go ahead.
and so and that is the answer to that is definitely, no one, jealousy is evil, okay? And that is something that is probably always present. I think if somebody is jealous of you, they're going to be jealous of you from here until kingdom come, right? I mean, do you get over being jealous? I don't know. I've never, do you think that, do you know friends of yours or people that were jealous of you and they got over it? Have you ever experienced that, Danielle?
No, no.
It gets worse, right?
It gets worse. And, you explain to your children, my kids are in middle school, so they're going through this whole thing. And I just recently had a situation with some friends, and I looked at my daughters and I said, I'm 54 years old. It
Yep.
does not stop.
Yep.
It does not stop. Listen,
Yep.
I have gone through so many tumultuous times and I have been up and down and depressed and my father was killed and I put on weight and I've lost weight and I've done all the things. And how and you watch, they have the sympathy for you, then they have but then as you start to reinvent yourself or evolve again, you see
Yep.
it comes back. Like they
Yep.
might give you that little reprieve when you're down on your luck or you're feeling
Absolutely. Misery
depressed
loves
because
company.
yes,
Misery
because
loves
they
company. I
they're
have
loving
encountered
that
that.
moment. They're
Yep.
loving that
Because
moment
you're
of
down.
watching you
You're
low,
down.
right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you start
Yep.
your come up again and it starts all over again. You're like, really? really, we're here again? And I
Right.
never do that. I'm so happy for everybody. If
Yep.
you've got, great. If you don't got, I'll give you. You know,
Yep.
we can get through this together. But it always, everybody's always trying to one up you. It doesn't stop,
Yes.
and
Yes. And you know
it's
what?
very sad.
I have to say that is something that I've always admired with you. In one of the things I've always admired is you're the type of person that, like most women, if they find like the secret to success, they ain't sharing it because they don't want someone else to have it. You're like, oh, I've been doing this. Here's the recipe. I'm sending it to you. Oh, I've been wearing this. This does this, this, and that. I'm sending you the link. Order one of these.
Yes.
Oh, this is the workout. I'm going to share it with you. Blah blah blah. Most people don't do that, and they're not transparent. And so I always marveled at women, and let me be real clear about this, because there are people on social media that women supporting women, and meanwhile behind the scenes I there's a lot of other things going on. So women supporting women is like few and far between, because again, like the comment that was made earlier, or the question that was posted, right, is about if you're if people, I lost the comment now, but in terms of are they jealous, or how do you control, where the hell did it go now? Oh, what do you do when a friend becomes jealous or controlling? So this is what happens, is that when jealousy comes into play, it's women supporting women. No, it isn't, because they're actually, I have been in situations where these women are talking behind your back and sabotaging you, but in front of the frontline people, they're so sweet and supportive. And
Well,
those
right.
are the
So
people I freaking can't deal with.
right. So this person wrote, "Should I get rid of them? But I'm in my mid 50s." And I listen. I get that, and I just wrote back to you. I have very few friends, a lot of acquaintances. So recently, Karen was talking about doing like a birthday party for me up in New York, and she's like, "Oh, we have to get it." I don't have 40 friends. Are you kidding me? I don't. I will go out and I run into a million people, and they're like, "Oh my God, Danielle, how are you?" And it's always right, Karen. It's always nice, and it's always a good time, and they're always respectful, and they'll hang out, and then they go. But someone to pick up the phone and call me and check on me day to day, somebody that I can go have lunch with or brunch with, or just sit on the couch in their house and watch a movie, whatever. I have none of that. So you sit back sometimes like, what the hell did I do wrong? I'm a good person. I know I'm a good person. You need me, I'm jumping on a plane and I'm coming to you, and I got your back the whole way, always. But yet, I'm not likable. I don't know why,
You know what?
and
First of all, I disagree with you on that. You're very liked, you're very loved. But again, I understand your perception, because I often had felt that way. But you know what? I am, and I know that you teeter with this, but I have to say that maybe because I've always kind of been the odd man out, I've recognized that I cannot fit my square peg into a round hole. And I'm
I know,
okay with that now.
what I unfortunately, friends are very hard to come by, right? And
Right.
especially at our age, to try to start making new friends is so hard. So, do you get
Right.
rid of them? It depends on how much toxicity they bring into your life. If the relationship is so toxic that every day you're thinking like, oh my God, then yeah, you're gonna have to get rid of them.
Right.
If you can survive it just being, that way, and learn to hold a little bit, don't give them all of your good, because
Right. As
they'll take from you. Then if you
Yep.
can hold it as just an acquaintance, or just somebody that you have there and she's your person, but don't share all your secrets with her. Don't tell her all
Yep.
of your good. Then I would
Yep.
say just hold on to them, because you know what? Maybe you do want to go out for a girls' night. Maybe you do want to do these things, and in a sense, you're going to have to learn how to use that person. And it's terrible to say it that way, but
Yeah,
that's where
let's
we
use
are.
a different word. Not use that person. You're accepting them into
For who?
your
Okay.
life for who and what they
When
are,
they
and you
are.
can't have unrealistic expectations. So
And
that's
listen,
the hard part.
jealousy is ugly. Jealousy is very
Ugly.
ugly, but
Yes.
it's there. It is
And so,
really
like,
there. And then if you're happy, it gets worse. Like if you're in,
yeah,
I don't know what your relationship is, your status or stuff like that, but if you're prospering and you're in a happy relationship, or
yep.
whatever, that makes people more envious.
Yes.
Especially if
How many people, not to interrupt you, but on that, how many people like hated me because my husband loved me?
right.
Right?
Sure.
Because oh my God, like look at how her husband is with her. So now they didn't like me even more because I
Joey loved
was
you so.
because I was
Now,
loved.
a little background for me and Karen. I was best friends with Joey, and since we
My
were
husband.
children, her husband, and Karen was best friends with my husband. And I actually met my husband at their wedding. So, but when I first met Karen, she was very standoffish. She wasn't the most inviting and extremely friendly person.
Well, and I
And
was 21. I mean, we were 21 years old. Hello. We were two
so,
bitches from the Bronx. Who the
yeah,
hell is
I
she?
I had my nose in the air a little bit. She had a nose in the air a little bit, so it was like that little, power struggle thing. And again, I knew Joey my whole life, so I was like, "Who's this girl?" So, and we became friendly, but not friends. Of course, especially when our lives started to commingle.
Right.
And right, and
Right. We didn't have
then
any issues. We didn't have issues with each other. We just
we just
weren't
didn't have
warm and
anything.
fuzzy. We
Right, that is
weren't
correct.
warm and fuzzy towards each other. Well, you
Correct.
also remember, I kind of was you were, that was your crew, right? I was an outsider because the
Correct.
only person that I had in my corner was, my boyfriend at the time, right? So
Right.
you were, best friends with all of these people, and you had a girlfriend that you were best friends with, and
Mhm.
you guys were like thick as thieves, and
Correct.
like I could feel the razor blades, through the eyeballs, coming through.
Note to
But
self,
anyway,
I don't even talk to that person anymore. And we're best friends with her
well,
since I was 11. But
yeah, and
but
again,
right.
and I
So
always marveled at that relationship, that.
this is where life changes and evolves, right? So Karen invited me up. I had just moved to Florida. Karen invited me up for the summer, and I was like, okay, let's try this. And that whole summer changed everything. Unfortunately, it changed Karen's life. It changed the dynamic of our friendship. So, you tend to find friendships some in the oddest places. So, as you move on in life and you meet people, don't automatically cut someone off or think like, oh, me and that person aren't going to jive. Because look at me and Karen. I mean, we're now 10 years into this friendship, and it's amazing. She has become one of my core people, where at one point I would have never even thought that that was possible. And there is no jealousy in Karen. She doesn't look at you and think, oh, she tells me, Danielle, you should feel blessed every time I call her with my, oh my goodness, oh my God, 4 kids, husband, this, that, the other thing. She's like, you should feel lucky. And she grounds me, and but again, it happens late in life, and you should always try to find somebody. So, like you said, with her square peg in a round hole, maybe you should, instead of trying to fit your peg in the right, go find a square one and see what happens, you know?
Well, right, but the point that the point is that, you know again, it's about accepting people for who and what they are. And like somebody, Bella said, jealousy is a self-reflection of that person's insecurity, and that is spot on. So, when it comes to relationships and such, again, there are people that are in your corner and that are with you and will support you. And then there are those jealous people. And the reason why they're jealous or insecure is not because of anything you're doing per se, right? It's where they are. Those are their demons, and that's what they're reflecting back at you. So, getting back to the, are you rude? And so I,
Maybe.
the topic of the day that we're discussing today for our very first show. And now you know why it's called What the Let's Talk, because this is really like as real as it gets, right? So when try to self reflect, and you do the same thing in certain degrees. Like I'll like the other day I text you and I'm like, are you good? And you're like, why? I'm like, I don't know, you're quiet, and I don't know, I'm just feeling something. And I said, maybe I'm off. And you messaged me back, you're like, no, you're usually pretty good. Let me like give it a minute and let me reflect here. Like where am I right now? Is that what you're picking up? So now that was like, I don't know, to some people, could that be construed as like, I don't think that's rude, but it's kind of like I am like, not that I call people out on things like in a bad way, but sometimes you got to kind of like remind, not remind, but let people know what's going on and then go from there. I mean, if and I do try to work on my presentation 100%, because I know if I say again, it's condescending. But it is frustrating because I've said the same thing, how like I keep addressing something that you're not addressing, so now I have to go back to it again. So can we address it, and then I will leave you alone, so again,
Right.
I
But
guess.
people also take rude as, for me. Okay. I am, like I said, I am the most social, antisocial person. So I can get on the phone and I would gab with you guys for like 3 hours and then not talk to you again for 3 months. Like, ask
Yeah,
Karen,
but
I go
that's not
dark.
rude.
But it is. But some people are like, damn, Danielle, I text you. You didn't even text me back. It's so rude. And I get
Yeah.
very consumed with my day to day here in my house and all the things that happen in my, in life and work and, just my husband with his job and my three children and this and that. So I love you. It doesn't mean I don't love you, but my brain is somewhere else, you know. And sometimes my tone, people like, they'll, Karen does this to me sometimes. She'll text me, I'm like, and then she's like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you responding to me like that? I'm like, oh shit, Danielle. Um, because you're in your moment, wherever your head is at, wherever your anxiety level is at, wherever your stress level is at, and you respond a certain way.
Yep.
And then I read back my text and I'm like, what a
Yep.
bitch. I think it to myself. And then
Yep.
people right away say, oh my God, she's so rude. You could have said it differently. And
Yep.
I do this, even vocally. I have zero patience. And we go back to, we're all of an age, we're all in our 50s, we're all raised a certain way in a certain neighborhood. you know we learn how to speak our minds and we speak them, and people do not like it. So I don't
Yeah.
think we're necessarily rude, or, for product or environment.
It's perception, and the thing is that it, again, you can say things in a better manner for sure, but at the same token, it's also, like I said, I think the key to this is being self-aware. And so my thing is, so for instance, yes, you and I have had that, like there was something that went on a couple of months ago, and you sent me this long-winded text, and I was just trying to do something in regards with your son, and you snapped, and I read the text and I was like, uh really? And I'm like, okay, like I said okay, and I left it alone, and I'm like, all right, okay, I'm gonna handle this differently now. And then like 5 minutes later, I get a text. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to snap. I'm just dealing with blah 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 blah. And I'm like, you know what? I get that. And it's true. Text messages are difficult because you have no idea what's going on. Like I'm doing a live show and I'm getting texts throughout the show. Now I can't concentrate when my texts are going off because it's coming up on the screen. I'm trying to read comments. I'm trying to pay
Correct.
attention to
Yeah.
you. And so the texts are coming up. And even though it may all be good, it's just like now is not a good time, and so nobody knows that. So, and then somebody may call you, and they may call you in the middle of whatever it is that's going on, and they don't know that. So sometimes, like, you'll call me and I may be like on the verge of tears, which I don't do normally. And that was great timing, right? Because even though I didn't want to talk to anybody because I don't want to fall apart, it just so happens that you call at that time and I burst into tears, right?
Right.
So timing is everything. But yes, if I could like just get it across the airways right now, and we have two people that are expressing the same things. Don't be so fast to make judgment, because you're just as judgmental as you're accusing me of being, not you, meaning people that are saying you're rude.
Hmm.
Oh, well, Karen is rude. Well, you're being more judgmental than me now. So now you're right and I'm wrong because you get to classify me as rude. I mean, do you know the
It's funny.
context?
I live in Florida, so everybody's like, "Oh, you're from New York, aren't you?" They're like, I'm like, "Yes." How do you know? They're
That's a
like,
nice
"Because
way to say you're rude.
I'm rude." They're like, "Oh, you're from New York, aren't you?" I can tell. I'm like, "Okay," But they're like, "Why are you guys like that?" I'm like, "Because we come from a hustle and bustle. Everybody's like so laid back now, especially nowadays with this whole woke society, and everybody's all like chill, and we're like, let's get to it. Let's move. Let's
Yeah.
just
Hello,
and
let's go. Yeah,
right. Let's
no,
go.
and
And
it's and I
people don't like
it
let's go.
yeah. Well, again, it's rude, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I am very much that way. I mean, and again, I think it goes by personality. And so this is why I say, like, if you're calling listen, sometimes people are downright rude. Let's call it like it is. And
Right.
I would never, you don't make excuses for being rude. Again, we can work on delivery again. But you know rude is when someone says something to you that's messed up, okay, and and all of that. But when somebody says to you again, or somebody says it like it is, that's not rude. And if you find it offensive, then maybe you need to check yourself. Why do you find that so offensive? And so that's what I'll do. If somebody says something to me that hits me a little off, I'll go, all right, what did that just like tug on? What happened with that? Like, you know what I mean? And then I'll try to self-reflect. And then, sometimes obviously somebody is just rude. But I don't
Right.
think that when people speak their mind, and and again, it depends, right? When you get somebody, like you said, if somebody's catching you and you got 700 things going on, you may come off a little rude, right? Because you're kind of reactory, because you're in the moment.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And
So, I mean,
I think that is basically what was happening this summer with my son, because I had my daughter who just had an appendectomy. I had surgery. I had my son in New York. I had and people just they tick at you, and before you know it, your patience gets so low. Your phone calls all, and then you
yep.
came at me, and I was like, and you just happened to be the brunt of my anger at the moment.
Right. And it was a frustrating situation because we were both kind of like scratching our heads. So it wasn't, like there was definitely warrant there, but again, it was just a knee jerk reaction. And unfortunately, listen, when you're arguing with somebody, I mean, not that this is the same thing, but if you're fighting or arguing with somebody, and you're angry, you're certainly going to say things that you would have not said had you not been escalated to that degree, right?
Right,
So,
but then you also have other people who just mean, they're just mean on a regular. Listen, and I'm gonna be honest, I have a sister. She is just, the things that come out of her mouth are just beyond. And I look at her sometimes and say, you can't talk to people that way. It hurts people's feelings. She's got no cushion whatsoever. I mean, no matter how many times you have this discussion with her, you sit there
mhm.
and say, how could you do that? And then of course, obviously she does it to people you know, so you see the fallback. It also affects,
Right.
friendships and things like that. And then you spend
Right.
half your time trying to smooth over that. You can't cut your sister out of your life. She's your sister,
Right.
you know?
Right. Right.
So, but she she is, there's no soft part of her at all. Her responses are always vicious, always mean. And
Yes.
I do not, sometimes I look at her and I don't even know how to navigate it. I just tell her to go, go F herself because she's my sister, whatever, goodbye, click, and I hang up the phone. Call me back
Right.
when you're feeling nicer, but not everybody can do that. So,
Right.
yeah, I guess, are you rude? There are people out there that it is just a natural thing for them to be vicious, and you sit back and you try to understand or think about what the underlying emotion is that provokes them or pushes them to be this way, because you can't soften them. I've tried. She's going to be 60 at this point. She's done. There's no changing her, and
Correct. And again, that goes to the categories, right? I mean, not categories, but like, you can have someone in your life that you don't align with in that way, but that doesn't mean you don't love them. So, it's just a matter of, especially when it comes to family, right? I mean, family we're going to love,
mhm.
and we're always going to be there for them, and what we don't necessarily means that you like them all the time, right?
Right.
We choose
So
our friends.
so she says here, so are you saying that we are all rude at some
Yep.
times, even to friends? Yes,
Well, and again,
1000%.
I think, but I hate the word rude in that respect, because I think, we are all reactory. If it comes off that it's being rude, then, so be it. But I don't, I think we all are human. And so
Well,
I
I mean,
think it can be
the point is
perceived.
that, right, as rude, but hopefully you have a friendship enough that you could turn to them and say, what, that was really rude. I didn't appreciate that. And that person
Well,
will take a moment to look back and reflect and go, what, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. I was in the middle of it. It really doesn't make it. It's not an excuse, but it is, because sometimes,
right,
like you said, you're at the end of your rope, and then that one text message comes in, and or that person says something to you, and everything you're feeling just gets directed at that person. That's
right.
human nature, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, I can sit back in my life and I can think of a million times that I've been rude to people. And I'm like, I remember one time sitting in my office in Manhattan, and I was so nasty. And I remember going in my office, sitting there and thinking, why am I so mean? And my elevator mechanic happened to be in my doorway, and he was laughing. And he's just like, Danielle, what happened? I'm like, because who are you mean to? I'm like, everybody. And he's just like, but you're not a mean person. I said, but I was just so vicious. Like, and I had to go back and, of course, like, eat a little crow and, go back to my tenants and so on. But at that moment, they pissed me off so much that I just, and it came out, and
Yeah.
they looked at me like, what a witch.
I know,
All right.
but you know what? Sometimes, right? So I think, I mean, I had this, I don't remember who I was having. I was having a conversation with somebody, and I was saying, like, I really was a nasty bitch, for a good portion of my life. I have to say, I was nasty. I was nasty, especially if I didn't know you. I definitely didn't come off warm and fuzzy, even a little bit. I was like, I don't know you, I don't trust you, and
You're
stay out
still
of my
like that.
freaking way.
You're still
No, that's not true. I'm really, yes, I don't know you and I don't trust you. But at the same token, I worked very hard not to come off that way, because I mean, when we're out now, I talk to everybody. I mean, I'm always social.
after, yeah, after like a tequila. But when we first go out, I'm different. Like, I will go out and I'll be like, hey, da, 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 da. And I've learned how to drop my guard a little bit, which also puts me in a wholly different, area, because now people say, oh, now you're too nice. So there's
Hmm.
no winning, by the way.
Not too
So,
nice, too friendly. Too
too
friendly, not too
friendly.
nice.
Yes, I'm too
Uh-huh.
friendly. Yes. So
Uh-huh.
yes, I'm too friendly. So you see, so Karen's always got her guard up now, because now she thinks I'm too friendly, so she has to be the not friendly, good cop, bad cop, right?
No,
And
no. You can take care of yourself. Are you
I
kidding me?
totally
No
can.
freaking way.
But
No
Karen
way.
Karen takes a minute to unwind, but once she finally like lets her guard
Y-
down, she's good. Me, I'm
Well,
just
I
like,
have to assess. I have to assess. That's what it is.
yeah,
Is
she'll
that
be like,
I
don't
am,
talk to that person. I got a bad vibe there. Don't talk to that person. He looks like a jerk off. Don't talk to that person. I'm just like,
and
whatever.
I'm always right. And
You
no,
are always
because you
right.
know what? I just because when
Mm.
I'm very energetically, phased. I don't know what the right word is. And I get a
In
sense of
tune.
a person and in tune, thank you. And so I really and it's what's funny? It's funny that you say that because I recently, well, not recently, but in the, at some, recent times, if you will, I had met somebody and they listened to one of my shows, I guess one of my sex talk shows or whatever, and I guess they thought that when I met them, like I was gonna like throw them down on the bar and like bang them or something. And like they're like looking, and you got to give me a minute. Don't get in my face, don't get in my space. You got to give me a minute so that I can like get a vibe from you. Don't get too close to me. I don't fucking know you. Like, just give me a minute and then I will like come around. But if you push yourself on me
Big
like
Daddy's
that,
funny. Right.
if you push yourself on me like that, I'm not good. And that's
Yeah.
exactly how I
And
feel in
it's
any
definitely
situation.
not happening, right?
No, and I don't like being put in that situation. So if I know you, and I mean, and a lot of times again, people think I'm a bitch because I'm like in my own world. So I'm like not even phased with, I don't even see the people
Yeah,
sometimes.
but
If I'm
you know,
walking straight, I don't see you. So like people will be like, especially with the show or whatever, like, oh, she said she thinks who she is. She don't even say hello. I didn't even see you. And maybe that's rude too, but I am not, I wasn't keened in on that. And if somebody grabs me and they say hello to me, I am always receptive. But,
right, but
I,
we were schooled that way, right? So we grew up in the
correct.
neighborhood. All these boys, all these guys. Once you were a neighborhood girl, as long as you weren't a runaround, they schooled you. Danielle, this guy's gonna say this. Danielle, this is gonna do this. Danielle, this is gonna do that. I try to teach these lessons to my daughters now about like
Yep.
boys. They're gonna say this. They're gonna do this. And you can see it. Like you just watch it. Men are they're creatures of habit. Everything, they're all from the same school. So you watch it just evolve. And so my very first boyfriend told me, don't ever say hello to anybody. People want to say hello to you, they'll come up to you and they'll say, especially guys. Never, because if you go up to a guy's gonna think, she likes me, she wants me, they think you got a shot. So you learned how to be nasty, just like as a protection thing. Like you stood there and you're like, oh, and then if they came up to you, hello, hello, and it was a respect issue. They knew that you weren't like running around, you weren't talking to 10 million guys, you weren't this, you weren't that. So, it's very hard to what's the word? Shut off. That's not the word that's not the word I'm looking for. But disconnect from those lessons that you learned because they all still apply. I am married. I got 4 kids, and I go out with my husband on the weekends, and I run into people that I know. I went out to this place this weekend, and I can't tell you how many guys from the neighborhood and girls from the neighborhood were in Boca. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is like the Bronx all over again. But, but you go up to them, they're like, oh, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. Next, they want to put their arm around your waist. Stop. What are you doing?
Right. Don't touch me. Like there's no reason to touch me. And that's, and so again, we were raised that way, right?
They're like,
So like
you don't got to be so nasty. It's not nasty. My
right.
fucking husband stands, excuse my
I'm
French,
not
my
nasty.
husband stands
Don't
and right
touch
there, like,
me.
what are you
Don't
doing?
even, but wait a minute, Danielle. I'm gonna back up for a second because and not that I don't like when you say that. You and I'm the same way. I act the way I act no matter who I'm with. So it's not like when you go out and your husband isn't with you that you're
That is
letting
true.
guys touch
That is
you. Okay,
absolutely true.
so
You're
that
right.
that doesn't like I'm the same way whether I'm with somebody or I'm not with somebody,
But
except
I
for the fact
also
that of course
know, but you try to. I'm like I love my husband's violent. We grew up in
your
a
husband is
time in a
old school, and
yes.
your
So
husband
if
is
you're
old
gonna,
school.
you
It's
may know me
disrespectful.
for 25 years, But that man doesn't know that you know me for 25 years. That's one. Two,
and
I didn't let you
and you
touch me
should be
then. Why am I going to
mindful.
let you touch me now?
Correct.
That's two. And
Disrespect.
three,
That's my
right,
point.
that man is going to come and say, who is this guy? And
Yep.
why does he think he's got the right to put his hands on you? So you
Yep.
have to be rude a little bit. And it's not even rude. It's just being responsible and, protecting yourself as a person. And then people might say, oh, no, she's rude. She's there. I'm not. I respect myself. This is me. This is my body. And no,
It's
you
called
cannot put your hands all over it.
boundaries. Right. It's
Boundaries.
called
Yes.
boundaries. Like that's what when I mean, and guys, listen, I love you and and everything, but like when you think it, do not touch a woman. Okay. Period. End of discussion. Especially somebody like us, because I will literally grab your hand and I will move it away from me. So is that rude? No. What that is a boundary. You do not touch me unless I give you the reason to touch me. So, like again, the way we grew up, we took I took the train, from the Bronx down to Manhattan. My parents had a dance school on Fordham Road and the Grand Concourse. Okay, when I walk a certain way. I teach my son. We're walking in the park. Who's in front of you? Who's in back of you? Who's here? Who's there? Somebody just got like killed or stabbed or robbed or something in in one of the parks, not far from where I am. And I said to my son, you see, this is why I tell you, you have to be aware of your surroundings. So when you're on the train, you don't look at the kids walk now with their cell phones and they're texting. They're hitting their head on a fucking pole because they're not paying attention. Like you can't be absent. You have to pay attention. So when we were raised that way, my father was like, you don't dress like that when you're on the train. You don't want them to
Right.
know whether you're a boy or girl. You don't do this. And when we would go out, think about it, like how many times I took the train to go out, to like go out dancing and stuff, like at, I don't know, whatever time it was at night, and everything else. Like we where it was different. And so, but the funny thing is the people that are judging us, if you will, are the people that grew up in our generation. So it's very interesting. So just, I know we have a couple of people that just jumped on. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is our very first WTF, Let's Talk show with Karen and Danielle. And this is Danielle's first time doing a show, and I think she's doing amazing. For those of you that are listening, hit that heart button and let me know if you think she's doing as amazing as I think she's doing. Make sure you hit that follow button so that when we are live, you are able to tune in and you can comment and respond. And that is Real Talk with Karen Stacy.podbean.com. And then you can always check us out on a replay on any of your favorite podcasts, but obviously we won't be live. So today we are talking about, are you rude? So this was some of the conversation, and I see. So now we have a couple of people that joined on. Big guy, the dude show, healthy boundaries, yeah, and again, that's my whole. I agree, healthy boundaries. I'm more likely to play sports than touch a female. I'm oblivious. That's way too much touching. That's actually assault.
Salt.
Um,
Correct.
yeah. So again, this is why, if and see, I said it again. This is why sometimes you need to ask yourself, why do I think this person is rude? And then find out if maybe they aren't rude, but maybe they just have certain standards and certain boundaries and certain expectations of a conversation or an interaction. And I would say that I think you and I are guilty of those three things, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, thank you, Big Daddy. See, he said you're awesome.
Thank
Um,
you.
so I would say that is something that people need to check themselves with. So before you want to categorize or call someone rude, I think you need to check yourself and think about why you feel that they are rude. Now, there
Or
is
what?
the
What?
obvious.
right, or your actions that are causing that behavior, you know?
Correct. Correct. Right. I mean, like I said, there is the obvious, and then there's the underlying. So if you think that, so, it's funny because the way you just described me when we were going out, when we go out, is people would say I'm rude, right? Like, oh, she's a
Yeah.
bitch. But you know what? I'm not really a bitch. I would love you to death, but don't touch me. You don't know me. Don't touch me. Like, you don't know me. Get out of my, you're invading my personal space. So be respectful of other people's space. Big Daddy, I do love you, just don't touch me.
Just to touch me.
That's,
I
it's
love you
very
from a
simple.
distance. I love you from
I
a
love
distance.
you. I love you. Now get back. And so again, you really have to recognize that, you guys. So for anybody listening to this show, that thinks that I am rude or thinks that Danielle is rude, then perhaps it can be perceived as being rude. Um, I think that when you verbalize how you feel, when you do set boundaries and you're not okay with certain things and you react to it, that you then are perceived as rude. Would you
Yes,
agree?
I agree.
As opposed to what you were speaking about earlier, when there are just certain people that just speak and they're nasty.
Yes.
That's different. So, I think the takeaway from today is that, not everybody is rude. Maybe you're just taking it too personally. Maybe you have an issue with the fact that these people are not allowing you to cross boundaries that you are accustomed to crossing. Or maybe you just intellectually don't get it and you're frustrating
May,
us.
right? Or maybe that person's behavior is a trigger for something from the past or underlying that we're not even aware of.
Absolutely, which is self-reflection, 110%. And right, that something woke up your demons,
Right.
and made you have that knee-jerk reaction, 1,000%. So that is, again, when we were discussing this, absolutely self-reflection. But the important thing is that you should be a little kinder to people and not go to worst case scenario, that someone is being rude. If you don't know them, you're being just as judgmental as you think they are. Is I guess my point. So you can't, like, what is that? People in glass houses shouldn't throw
And
stones.
throw
You
stones.
can't call somebody, rude when you're being judgmental. So, like, I take your judgmental and now I raise you one.
Right, but I mean, but on the flip side of that is if you continuously run into this person or you have, a relationship with this person and their behavior is continuous, at some point you're going to
Uh-huh.
have to sit back and think, they're just a jerk. They're just rude people.
Correct.
I told you I have one. I have one.
Correct.
So, that old saying, I see you once, somebody says you're drunk, maybe you're not. So, you know the thing. So,
Well,
three, four times you run into this person and they're nasty all the time. Yeah, they're just rude.
when someone shows you who they are, believe them. So, yeah, it's very true. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? You have different compartments in your life. You have your core people, who are like your best friends, your heart and soul. Then you have your acquaintances, and then you have your common, groups, if you will, the your friends edition things and stuff, and you treat people
Mm.
accordingly. So for anybody that is quick to call someone that is straight up rude, I don't know if that's fair. I think that sometimes honesty can be construed as being rude, because you're just saying it like it is. Can I use this subject later on my podcast as a debate? Yeah, why not? Absolutely. We're here, to show some love, and you can. If I can jump on with you, I absolutely will, and I'm sure if Danielle is available, she will as well.
Of
And
course.
and thank you for wanting to use this subject. I think it's a really good subject because there's so many avenues in which you can go with it, right? Because we could talk about this for another hour because there's a whole other, dimension to it. But I think we touched on the basis of it all. So Danielle, if you had to, do a summary of, the question, are you rude? What would be your point, that your final closing argument?
My final closing argument. That's funny. Well, again, we've hit every point on what can be perceived as rude, right? Conceit, arrogance, uh,
Jealousy.
honesty, and jealousy, and everything else. Being rude or being called rude is not defined by one action. Unfortunately. So you have to understand that people have certain things going on in their lives. You have to understand, it, it's it's hard. It's hard to really sit back and say, oh my god, that person is so rude, because you have no idea what is going on in their lives at the moment when they respond to you in a certain way. So I guess the end result is, maybe take it in the moment and reflect, and possibly give somebody a second chance, and realize that maybe what you were seeing in the moment wasn't actually doesn't really reflect who they are as a person. you know Give them a second chance. I mean, if they show themselves to you a second time, then and you've made your decision. But we need to be a little kind, and understand that everybody's got something going on, and unfortunately, you know people perceive themselves, or they respond with a little hostility in moments, and doesn't it's not a direct reflection to you or how they feel about you. It's just how they are in the moment. And
And you have to also, get to know somebody, and understand, like, so that's what I really dislike too. Like, I have people, so like you said in the beginning of the conversation, well, people say, oh, how do you hang out with her, right? And meanwhile, everybody thinks you're a nasty bitch,
yes,
and you're rude, but yet how can you hang out with me that they perceive as a nasty bitch and rude?
buddy,
So
listen, I
like,
was with my sister one time, and I was so nasty. We were in duos in Yonkers, and this guy said some shit on his face, and I spun on him. And my sister turned to this guy and says, he goes, she says this so effing nasty. She goes, and believe it or not, she's the one married, not me. But I'm so I still laughing, right? Because guys all like bitchy girls. But anyway, that's a different
true.
topic. So, but
Yeah, we'll
but
do that
I'm
one.
not. But I'm not. He said something, and it triggered me, and I responded. I run into people now, and they go, "Oh my God, Danielle, when we were growing up, you were so nasty. You were like the mother figure. You never let your friends have any fun." I grew up protecting my friends because they were out
Yep,
getting drunk, and
me too.
they were the
Right,
friendly ones.
right,
I was the iron curtain. I wasn't letting
right.
anything get
We
by,
walk in
right?
together, we walk out
We leave,
together,
right.
and where are you? And why aren't you over here? And I was the
and
same
and
way
no, you're
too.
not going home with that person. If they like you, they'll
Yeah,
call you. That's another story. So, but
yep,
it's funny. So now we're all married, and we run into each other, and they're like, "Oh my God, like Danielle, you're so nice. Why were you so nasty?" I wasn't nasty. I was protective. Different,
correct, correct.
you know.
And
But
that's what I'm saying is a
in their
perception.
in their thoughts, right, in their perception, as Karen says, I was a bitch. Period.
Right.
The whole
Because
time we
you
were
put
clubbing, because I
that was
protected my friends.
boundaries. But that was
Right.
boundaries. You weren't a bitch because a bitch would have said, you know what? Go. Go home with them. I don't give a shit. Oh, they're gone. Oh, I don't know. Did you see, Joanne? I haven't seen her in like a half hour. Oh, I don't know. I don't give a fuck. I'm here. That would be a bitch.
No, but I didn't do that. I was like, negative. It's not happening.
Right.
You like
Well,
her?
that's what I'm
You like
saying.
her?
So
Yeah, I like her.
perception.
Great. Call her. You can take her out another time. And they were like,
Well,
damn,
again,
Danielle.
perception. But again,
That's
because you set boundaries for your friends, basically, like, hey, we're all leaving here alive, and such. So yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. It's perception. So when before you want to categorize somebody as being rude, maybe think about where they're coming from and why they're doing what they're doing, right?
Right.
That would be my takeaway. So we have kept everybody here for a New York minute.
Yes.
um, and I want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in today and that hit the like button and that commented and stuff. I think we got to most of your comments. So thank you so much for
Yes.
joining
Thank you
in
for
with
joining
us.
us.
And thank you to Danielle for her first show. She
Whoop,
did
whoop.
awesome. Yes. Woo woo. And we're going to do our best as long as, no one's, hanging from the chandelier. We're going to do our best to hit Tuesdays at 11 a.m.
Correct.
And again, the new show that we're doing, what you just listened to, is What the Let's Talk with Karen and Danielle. So make sure you hit that follow button. It's the free app. Hit the follow button. You will be alerted when we go live. And if you are catching this on the replay on any of your favorite podcasts, make sure you can always comment. I believe I can still see the comments, but obviously I can't read them because we're not live. Yes, thank you. Thank you guys for participating. We love you all, and we will see you next week at
Next
11
Tuesday.
a.m. Thank you. Thank you, Danielle.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. See you next week.
Uh, that sounds good to me. All right, guys, have a great week. Bye.
Bye.